Hey friends, it's Ryan Frank and welcome to the Daily Coffee Chat. Trust that y'all are doing well. It is mid-week. You've made it to Wednesday and hope that you're having a wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you, podcast, for tuning in today, YouTube, Facebook. Thank you for what you are doing. It's been a while since somebody has reminded you that what you are doing is important. Hear it from me today. What you are doing is important. It's important to the kids that you serve, to the parents that you serve. It's important to your church. It's important to your pastor. But let me remind you, most of all, it's important to the Lord. So keep up the great work. Don't lose heart. I'm joined today by Ricardo Miller. Good morning, Ricardo.
Good morning, Ryan. Thank you for having me back.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for being here. If you don't know Ricardo Miller, this is somebody, friends, that you need to get to know. Now, most of you know Ricardo because Ricardo writes books. He travels and speaks. He does a lot we have a mutual friend, Esther Moreno. Ricardo and Esther do a lot of stuff together. I've asked Ricardo to come to MegaCon 2021. I just asked him last night if he would help me with a new project that we'll be announcing soon in 2021. And I don't know that, Ricardo, you've ever told me no to anything. You always just say yes. So I owe you some yeses the next time you need something.
Well, listen, I'm going to pull on that in 2021. But now I'm extremely grateful for what you're doing, man. I mean, you've been leading the way on charging forward with this assignment, and it's impressive. And I'm honored to be invited at times to be a part of different things.
Well, thank you. I think the world of you. Ricardo just has a huge heart for leaders and for the church, and is always encouraging people to think bigger and to pursue what God has put in front of you.
Yep.
I think a lot of times we spend too much time worrying about how am I going to get through this next Sunday, and who's going to fill all the slots in planning center, and we don't have enough conversations around who's my Timothy.
Yep.
And what kind of team am I building?
Yep.
And am I developing that team? Do you agree?
I totally agree, Ryan. One of the questions that I think leaders have to have always in mind when it comes to planning is that who's going to replace me, or when I can, who will? Because the reality of it is none of us is forever, and you got to start building like you're not forever. But that requires a person to have a certain level of confidence and assurance and a proper idea of the kingdom. I think when we get an understanding of how we're supposed to build following Jesus's model, the goal is when I leave, it should get better.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Yeah.
Ricardo, when you're looking for, as the kids pastor, if I try to answer this question, who's next?
Yeah.
What do you look for in a person?
Man, you look for someone who basically, one, is committed. That's definitely committed to the house. I think that's very important. Obviously, you don't want to pour everything you have in somebody who has no plan on staying around. That would be one. Another one is teachable. I think it's important that anyone that's coming after you or has the potential to be you as the leader, that you start looking at, are they teachable? Because obviously you're going to know something they need. And as Jesus said to his disciples, come follow me and I will make you. Well, it's difficult to have someone follow you who aren't willing to learn from you. And then the other one is they really need to love the Lord. And knowing that you can push a person to grow and become when they are really in love with God. But if a person is right on the fence with their faith, even though they may be good with kids, sometimes it's not the best person to invest in.
That's a great point. So let's review those again. We said being coachable.
Yep.
Loving the Lord, sharing the vision of the house.
Yep.
Boy, those are good things. Why do you think, Ricardo, as Kidman leaders, why don't you think we give this enough attention, thinking about who's coming next?
Because most children's ministry leaders are not hired as leaders. They're hired as good workers with kids. And so they come in the room. I love kids. I love families. I love seeing service alive and engaging. And all of that is good. And all of that is very necessary. There are very few children's ministry leaders who come in understanding that my job is not to do everything. My job is to build a department that is running well to do everything with or without me. Once you get to that point of constructing your department in a way where it's not so much a week-to-week department that is centered around you and the weekly engagement of what you bring to the table, then you can start futuristically looking at what you are assigned to do for the long haul. So a lot of children's ministry leaders, I'm challenging you to decide to not only think about today, but start structuring for the long haul. Here's another challenge, Ryan. One of the problems with long haul building is that it doesn't have instant gratification as those one incredible Sundays does. You feel good that Sunday was amazing, and then you get back to try to make the next Sunday amazing, and then you try to make the next Sunday amazing. But the reality of it is you're not building something for the long haul. When you build for the long haul, you may have 3 to 6 months that don't look so exciting, but it's actually healthier. It may not look and feel amazing, but the structure of it is sustainable and is more kingdom built for the long haul.
Yeah, boy, that's good stuff. And Ricardo, if I identify someone, I train someone, I spend time with someone, I really find a Timothy, and I bring that person up, does that mean I'm going to lose my job? I mean, does that mean do I need to be worried? I mean, how much address that for someone that may be thinking, gosh, I thought this was my job?
Yeah, that's an important question, because there are a number of things you got to look into for that. One, if that church is trying to look for cheaper labor, it may be your job.
That's true. Yeah.
In other words, if they're paying you $60,000 a year and you hire, you train, equip, and develop someone who would take that job for 40, more than likely, if that church doesn't understand what you did in helping the bigger overall vision of the church, they may cut themselves or affect themselves on the long haul by thinking they're saving when it's in reality they're hurting themselves. So that's one. The other thing is you got to know the culture of your church, in that of are they seeing what you bring to the table in relations to developing teams and building leaders, or are they opportunists? And there are some environments that are just not healthy, Ryan, meaning that if I bring someone up who becomes skilled enough to be me, sometimes the value for me no longer is as appreciated in certain environments. So a person needs to know that. So if you're in an environment like that, here's what I would say: always leave the secret sauce out.
Yes, that's a good point.
Always leave that 1 or 2 things that, yes, he or she may could do almost everything you perceive that I do, but there are 2 or 3 things only I do because I know this environment and I want to keep my job. But then there are others who are in healthy environments that are good with having 3 or 4 other persons around them that could be them, and they're running a department in a healthy way.
Yeah. Ricardo, let's talk about building a team.
Yeah.
I think part of thinking about who's next and succession is, you're finding someone like me, similar heart, shares a vision of the house, loves the Lord. Let's go a little bit broader, and that is a team.
Yep.
I think one of the best uses of our time as KidMin leaders is building, and not necessarily, I'm talking your close team, not just all of your volunteers. Don't you think every leader needs to have a team around them that you're investing time in?
I believe in that so much. I tell people often, nothing great or significant has ever been accomplished by any one person.
That's a good point.
And if you want to do amazing ministry, dynamic ministry, if you want to build something that will last, and if you want to prevent yourself from burning out and burning out others, you want to build a team. Now, the interesting thing is, the better the team, the more different the individuals on the team, because difference breeds strength. And we naturally attract who we are. And so there are a lot of people who just, well, you know what, these are my 4 and these are my 5, but they're more like you. The goal is to get a number of different people together and help them to learn how to work together. The Bible says we're the body of Christ, many parts, but one body. And I think that's the dynamics of what a leader in a children's ministry department should be thinking. How can I find some incredible individuals who are passionate about children and families, but they're different than me, and how can we come together for a common goal, because together we do more. Together we can do so much more.
Yeah. If you're out there and you are a smaller church and you hear that and you're thinking, boy, I need a team right now. It's just me. But then I look around my church and there's only 30 or 40 people here. Let's take a minute and encourage these people, Ricardo. I think one word of encouragement from me would be focus on one person at a time. Yeah, you might like to have a team with 3 or 4 people, but focus on one at a time and pray that God would show you who that next one person is. What word of encouragement would you give someone, Ricardo, who's at a smaller church?
Yeah, I like that point, but I teach this, and I believe it's important for every leader to understand someone is assigned to help you. Whenever you've been called to lead, you must understand there's also been someone called to assist. Now, unfortunately, some of us have not taken the time to develop our skill set to identify who's called to assist. What I'm going to say is identify who's assigned to assist you. Now, some of us want adults, but when there may be a number of teenagers, Ryan, who are around 16, 17, 18-year-olds who will say, hey, I'm here to help. And you're like, okay, you're a teenager. I need some adults to help me. Take who is coming, train, build, and develop them, and use the little that you have or the ones who are making themselves available now to get to where God is wanting you to go. Be faithful with the little, the 1, the 2, the teenager, the one mom, the friend who doesn't even go to your church who wants to help, but they don't go to your church, but they could help. Use who's available and start there.
Bro, that was good. That's worth the call right there. Ricardo, you've got a new book. All right, that's newer. I think in the last year, to Effective Living, right? Is that your newest book?
That is my newest book, man. I call it Effective Living, Creating a Life You Don't Need to Take a Vacation From.
Man, talk to us about it. Like, what inspired the book, and what are you going to find if you get it and read it?
Man, I've been doing children's ministry, Ryan, for 24 years. And to this day, I still wake up every morning with a pep in my step. You know what I'm saying? I love what I do. I've always loved what I've done. And a good friend of mine told me a couple of years ago, after he saw I was going through a number of challenging seasons, some high and lows, which we all do. He said, I'm very impressed with how you continue to show up on a daily basis. And I was like, hey, I'm about to go into something different. I'm shifting my platform a little bit. And he says, you know what? I think you need to teach what you've been living on. And so that whole term of enjoying life to the fullest is what the book is about.
So it's not just for children's ministry leaders.
Well, you know what? I think it's so much more for children's ministry leaders. I'm thinking it's definitely for them in that of, I think sometimes we lose ourselves in our call and we forget that we should have a life.
Yeah, boy, that's good.
You know? And that's what this whole thing is. It's called effective living. I want to bring it all together so that when I show up at church, I'm enjoying church, I'm enjoying my kids, I'm enjoying home, I'm enjoying the drive. I wanted to construct my life in a way where I like my life.
I love it. It's effective living. Friends, you need to go to Ricardo Miller, ricardomiller.com. We'll put a link in the show notes. Ricardo, would you wrap us up? Just give a final. It's always such a pleasure to talk with you. And boy, God uses you to just drop such good words of wisdom and nuggets of truth. Would you just share one closing word of encouragement to the kid community today?
Yeah. For those of you that are watching this, I want to remind you, you are not alone. There are so many other individuals out there in this same field. They're in this same category of area of ministry. And here's what I want you to know. Someone is succeeding where you're challenged. Someone is doing extremely well. And you got to remind yourself, if God can do it for them, he can do it for you as well. But you got to start telling yourself all things are possible to them that believe. And in spite of where you will find yourself right now, tell yourself, I can get and I can become what God has destined for me to get or to become. So make a mission on a daily basis to improve yourself in a way where you're moving closer to what God wants. Don't you dare let what you see with your natural eyes dictate how you show up on a daily basis. Commit to your vision, commit to living your life at the highest standard possible, and tell yourself, I'm coming for all that God has for me and my children's ministry department.
I love it. It's Ricardo Miller. Awesome. Ricardo, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Sorry for the technical problems at the beginning. So glad you were able to jump back in. Friends, it's ricardomiller.com. Ricardo, if he can serve your church, you definitely need to go get his book.
Yeah.
And then Ricardo also travels, he teaches, he speaks, he'll consult with your church, he'll help you solve whatever problems you're dealing with. He's just a great, great gift to the church and to the children's ministry community. So go check out ricardomiller.com. Everyone on the Coffee Chat, thanks for being here today. We will be back tomorrow at the same time, same place. Hope to see you then. Have a great day.